Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss these three top stories. Number one, what is next for Malava? A lot of interesting things are enveloping in Malava constituency ahead of the 27th November by-elections, where the chief whip under the UDA party and certain members of the ODM party are now joining hands with the DCP party behind the DAP Kenya candidate, Honorable Panyako, at the expense of Ndakwa, who is the UDA candidate of that region. We bring for you the full details. On our second story, we look at Sifuna's statements. Broad-based is not a party, so stop campaigning in ODM backyards with a broad-based ideology. Sifuna now slams the Deputy President Honorable Kindiki for using that platform in Kasipu Kabondo's campaigns to campaign for Ruto's two-term ideologies at the expense of the party's by-election primaries. Then the third story is on the future of Luyha politics. Now that ODM is sinking in the region, UDA cannot sustain that region. DCP is still so new. DAP Kenya requires support of other bodies to sail in this region. And the Luyha officials speaking the same language. What should we expect from Luyha politics moving forward? I'm your host Ogola, and this is the Civic Lens. Now, we appreciate our viewers for skyrocketing our subscription, but if you're joining us for the first time, please just hit the subscribe button so that we keep you updated on what goes on in the Kenyan political scene timely. On our first story, there is a lot that is enveloping in Malava constituency. Now, if you remember, and let me just take you a little bit back before we start from the beginning. We detailed an episode here at the Civic Lens on Malava constituency sometimes back, but that time it was still so fresh because the by-election or the by-election for Malava constituency's date had just been set alongside these other 23 other by-elections that are to be held on the very date. So when we did that particular episode then, we were just focusing on what had developed on the ground then. But between when we did that episode and now, a lot of interesting things have developed in the Malava by-election that is fit for your consumption, and we bring it to you here at the Civic Lens. So let's start from the top. Ndakwa is the favorite candidate for the UDA party. He's been confident previously to secure this position without any demur because previously the government was until now supporting him using government resources. But beyond that, there was division on the united opposition on the Malava by-election then. Honorable Edgar was seeking that particular position under the DCP party ticket, and of course Honorable Panyako was the DAP Kenya party ticket holder for that particular position. Within the united opposition itself, there were infights, discussion between the officials of the DAP party Kenya and the sound Malala from the DCP party, who actually faulted the DAP Kenya party for fronting a candidate in that region of the Kakamega County. Malala, who was in a mission to prove that the DCP party was not just a mountain party, and who is also the deputy party leader, of the DCP party, felt that this particular by-election gave him a chance to prove the support of the party in his own backyard. As it turns out, that particular support has since been viewed in the lenses of political prism and found wanting, and as a result, the DCP party candidate, Honorable Edgar Wakili, has now bowed down and gone down on his knees for his party officials so that they can merge hands together with the DCP party for that region. We detailed a full analysis of the effect of that in the People's Mirror, but now I'll just come back to what we want to detail today at the Civic Lens with that prism. You see, the UDA candidate for this region has received huge support from the government. Honorable Amisi was informing the public that you would say that the Central Bank of Kenya has since now changed its seat from Nairobi to Kakamega, with Honorable Farouk Kibet being blamed to be the agent of facilitating cash to that region so that that region can support the government. So the question you perhaps would be asking is, why would interest be so high on Malava constituency to the extent that money would be, channeled to that region, likened to changing the seat of the CBK from Nairobi to Kakamega? This region is important to the UDA government for so many reasons. Of course, for Farouk Kibet, you'd say this is his in-laws' place and so matters to him on matters of family. But let's look at it broader in the aspect of Kenyan political arrangements. The UDA party is so confident that the Mount Kenya region might not rally behind them come 2027 elections. And as much as they are doing strides to secure that particular backyard for them, they are confident that the Mount Kenya region is going to be so resistant because of Rigathi Gachagua. Another option, look for the rest of the country that can rally behind your idea to exclude Mount Kenya. And for that, they have gone to Nyanza, they have gone to the Duale's backyard in northern part, and now they are targeting where both the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Prime Cabinet and Foreign Affairs CS, and the Whip of the National Assembly comes from. The Luhya's place is the backyard of Ruto's vote in 2022. While all these other parts of the country were forming alliances to oust, or rather to beat the Ruto's team in 2022, Ruto's focus was Mudavadi, Wetangula, and the likes, specifically Boni Khalwale. And I'm using the likes on Boni Khalwale for a reason, because we will detail Boni Khalwale's busting out later. So this is the backyard that delivered the votes to Honorable Ruto, and the votes that comes from the Luyha nation is actually so much. If they can rally behind you in a presidential election, then you are safe after you consolidate other regions, even if you don't have the mountain region. And right now, that the Prime CS comes from that region, the Speaker of the National Assembly comes from that region, the Chief Whip or the Majority Whip in the Senate also comes from that particular region. There is interest in that region because the government sits in that region. And so if a united opposition candidate was to walk into that particular by-election and win, then it would be a very bad image for the president. If you tie this to Farouk's interest in the area which is familial, then you see why Malava's by-election is really, really important for this particular cohort of the UDA party come 2027. But what is the ground really saying? Honorable Amisi informs us that you cannot win anywhere right now in Western with the UDA party. Even with the ODM party, if you are not fully affiliated with your people in that region, it might be very, very difficult to win that particular seat. Of course, the DCP party is still new in that region and cannot win that particular seat for one particular candidate, and that we will detail on the future of the Luyha politics. So this interest that is solid here leaves two individuals in the race: Ndakwa as the preferred candidate for the government and Panyako as the preferred candidate for the opposition. And Panyako being heightened to that particular level actually has come at a very big cost for other politicians, including Wakili Edgar, who has now had to surrender his political ambitions to steer Panyako's political ambitions in the 27th by-election. And you see, this reminds me of what Mbui was saying at the Mbere North Place, that at what point do you require a man serving under a particular political party to bow down for another man in another political party? In the Kenyan political scene, it's weird, but it happens that you can be asked to downplay your interest politically for another person and wait for a duration of time depending on the contract you get into. But that aside, Ndakwa is now receiving resources in that area. The Majority Whip of the Senate, who is under the UDA party, Honorable Amisi, who is under the ODM party, and the ODM party is in a broad-based arrangement with the UDA party right now, have both come out publicly to say that when it comes to the Malava by-elections, they are not supporting UDA. Now, the effect of this is that if individuals, politicians do not want to support UDA, yet they are following. If individual politicians who attribute to UDA run away from UDA to support the DAP-K candidate, we are most certain that the Malava by-elections might go to the united opposition. But the UDA government party is doing all it can to transverse these particular arrangements and unity that the united opposition has gotten into and deliver the win for Ndakwa. So we are yet to see on 27th of November 2025 what the effect of a majority whip of the Senate serving under the party coming away from the party to join his people and deliver the win for the People's Party, because you see the DAP Kenya party is actually a Luyha party for quite some time, at the expense of his own office, at the expense of his own political safety, at the expense of his own career. It shows that even the majority whip in the Senate knows something about the Malava by-election that perhaps we do not know yet, and that might be that the Malava by-election is already settled, and the ground are saying that irrespective of any amount of money that will come from the government side, they are going to vote impartially. Now, the government being blamed to use money at this point, and they are not being given an opportunity to defend themselves, is also a key matter, but we do not know why the government would use resources to the extent that it's being likened to the seat of the CBK leaving Nairobi for Kakamega. So let's keep our focus on Malava, because now the days are moving fast, and in less than 25 days now, in less than 23 days, we will be having the by-elections in Malava determined and the winner announced by the IEBC. Sifuna, which is the second story, has taken Kindiki head on. And you see, when we detailed whether or not the scramble for Raila's land was going to take a unique, interesting turn, and when we detailed that it was only going to take just 2 weeks before we saw the uprisings in the land of Raila Odinga, we detailed it rightly. Because right now, what the UDA party did after burying the late retired honorable prime minister was to endear themselves to the regions that are actually affiliated to the former prime minister. And we saw Honorable Sakaja, who is the governor of Nairobi, going all the way to Kasipul to campaign for a Kasipul candidate, while the entire time Sakaja has never been an ODM member. We saw Honorable Kindiki, the deputy president, using the Kasipul stage to advance interest of broad-based government and remind people that Baba left them in broad-based government without focusing on the interest of the individuals seeking those particular political seats. Now, the ODM party is not silent to this, and Sifuna, the bold one, has come out to speak on it and say that there are certain people from Mashinani, let's say Magarini and Kasipul specifically, who might not even know the name of a candidate, but definitely know ODM and know Ile Patia Baba or Ile Chungwa or whatever they call it. And when they get to the polling station, that is what they look for, the ODM party or Ile Patia Baba or Chungwa or whatever they call it. So when you introduce an idea of a broad-based candidate, then you are doing it at the detrimental of the candidate, even if you are thinking that you are helping the candidate. And on that, perhaps, I think I agree with Sifuna, because I have seen how people vote sometimes. The voting process of lining, getting there and ticking that box, sometimes when you have entered that platform to tick that box, you almost forget everyone that you wanted to vote for. And remember, if you're not literate to even remember those names in order, because there are a lot of names that we vote for in a normal voting setup, leave alone by election, then sometimes you require the assistance of the agents in there. And so when there is a broad-based candidate, you're hearing the vice president talking about in your backyard, and at the same time you want to vote for an enigma's party in your backyard and you're confused, you might end up destroying your vote or voting for a candidate that you did not intend to vote for. And so Sifuna, to secure the win for Magarini and also to secure the win for ODM in Kasipul, has come out boldly and has asked the government to shy away from using this particular by-elections as a particular platform to champion for 2027 interest. And while saying this, he said it very categorically that we are not going to witness any presidential election on 27th November 2025. No, these are minor by-elections, and so there is really no need to advance a two-term idea on a by-election currently that is set to be held in less than 23 days. That makes sense. But the government is using every opportunity, most in the Nyanza area, to remind them that Raila left them in the same kapul with the government, and everything that they are doing in spirit of Raila, also perhaps they need to do in the spirit of Ruto. A very wrong political ideology, and we hope to see how it turns out in the main ballot, both on the 27th of this month and on 2027, the second Tuesday of that August, when Kenyans will be going to the ballot, whether the spirit of Raila Odinga will osmosis to the spirit of Ruto when the people will go to vote. Now, what is the future of Luhya politics now that major parties in this region are losing credence? We detailed some times back on how there is many political parties in Kenya, and out of the very many political parties in Kenya, sometimes you just hear 10. In the Luhya region, political parties that are heard can be reduced to a mere 5. There's the Wetangula Ford Kenya Party, which is previously Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's party, but is currently under the leadership of Wetangula. That particular party has secured its position in the Western region for as long as Wetangula has always been in government. So Ford Kenya is a party in that region that has a voice. There was the previously known ANC, Amani National Congress. This was the party of Honorable Mudavadi. But Mudavadi, when he joined government, joined fully and disbanded his party and formed subsumed his party into the UDA party, with certain structures from its party being absorbed into the UDA party. So he sold his party, or rather he sold his soul with his party together for the government. And then after that, there has been the predominant ODM party in the western area. ODM party has been known for both Nyanza and western influence, and dated back to the relationship of Jaramogi and the senior Wamalwa, the relationship of Raila and the senior Wamalwa, the relationship of the Luo community when it comes to a political voting has been solid. They call themselves Mashimeji. Now, with the previous 2022 election, we saw the penetration of the UDA party into that area, and the UDA party perhaps penetrated that area because of the relationship it had with both the ANC party and the Ford Kenya party ahead of forming the government in 2022. But also, you can't deny the fact that certain officials of the Luhya land went to parliament and to senate through the UDA party, including Honorable Boni Alwale. So the UDA party in the 2022 by-elections had found its footing in Luhya land. Now we are seeing the deputy party leader of the new party, DCP, comes from Luhya land as well. So DCP is finding a footing in Luhya land, but might not be so strong because Malala, both as an individual and a politician, is still a little bit young compared to the other politicians who have entrenched their parties in that region. But young notwithstanding, is bold enough to penetrate the mountain party into the Luhya land and have its support in his own base. We cannot downplay the game of the DAP Kenya party, which is a Luhya party under the leadership of Eugene Wamalwa, and now being contested by Honorable Natembeya on overall control. And this is the only party that you can say is truly a Luhya party, because if you trace the lineage of the DAP Kenya party, it's been predominantly a Luhya party. So out of all this party, Ford Kenya, ANC, ODM, UDA, and DAP Kenya, you can include DCP. These 6 parties are now the predominant parties in Luhya land. One thing is common out of all these 6 parties, that none of them single-handedly confront a win or confront a universal support of the Luhya land to the national seat to deliver a win for the Luhya people. And that is why Luhya nation has always been divided when it comes to the nation's politics, with a section of them joining the government and a section of them remaining in opposition because of an absence of a uniform umbrella to deliver their national interest in the main seat, like fronting a presidential candidate or a presidential vice president or a presidential deputy president, now with the new demarcations of the new constitution. So what's happening is that without this particular solidarity, yet we are seeing conversations going on between these officials in a friendly manner. You can see that when Sifuna meets Alwale, or when Sifuna meets Natembeya, or when Sifuna, Amisi, and Natembeya are speaking, they might come from different political parties, but majorly they speak the same voice. So what next for Luhya politics, now that Raila is not in the scene anymore and the senior individuals are being ousted with the youngsters? This is the opportunity now for the Luhya nation entirely to come up with a single party that will address all their voices together and come up with a structure within their own single parties, because there might be Luhyas as tribe, but they come from different counties, giving a win to Kalwale, giving a win to Malala, giving a win to Natembeya, even giving a win to Sifuna and Amisi within their own structures of a regional party, and this way the Luhya politics will stem beyond the counties of Luhya land and will one day have a national outlook which is better than both Wetangula and Mudavadi combined. So the future of Luhya land is to run away from these other parties that have found footing in Luhya land and come up with a structure that consolidates all their interest. I am aware and I'm keen to the fact that power dynamics will play in that arrangement where interest of individuals would want to outplay the overall interest. We've seen that with the DAP Kenya. But when you reduce it from a point of we are not fighting each other internally in the local level, but we are fighting jointly for the national seat, then I feel like Luhya land right now have very ripe collection of politicians that can come together and become the face of Kenyan politics if their unity survives beyond their regional dislike. So we keep our lenses to update you more on what will envelop in Malava ahead of the 25 or 24 or 23 days that are remaining to the main election. We keep you updated on whether or not now Kindiki and the president's team will shy away from pushing broad-based ideas in ODM by-election backyards, and we will keep you aptly updated on what the Luhya politicians will do to consolidate a strong force and a strong bargaining power in the national seat. This is the Civic Lens.